Welcome to Dungeon Anthology on riotradio.ca. I'm Nathan Arsenault, and joining me today is my friend Tanner Smith.
Hi there.
Dungeon Anthology is a collection of disconnected stories told in no specific order within the Dungeons & Dragons universe. Stories are told through the medium of comics drawn by myself and voice acted by yours truly and various others that join me along the show. Please enjoy the show.
There's a mausoleum buried deep beneath the lands of Faerun, said to hold ancient armies that awaken when exposed to the air of conflict. However, those who have located such a place during times of great conflict have never once returned unscathed or amongst the living. The realms are beginning to tense. Loyalties and agreements begin to shift as eyes begin to lock onto one another. As the air has changed to one of hostility, I've decided to lay myth to rest and set out to uncover the slumbering army. Was that still me?
That was me. I'm gonna repeat back what you just said, so I know I've gotten everything you've told me straight.
Go ahead.
So, you've located a mausoleum of ancient legend, one that supposedly holds an army that will come to life during a great conflict. Right so far?
You are correct thus far. Please, continue.
Right. So we've entered the mausoleum before a war breaks out, so that we can put a lid on why everyone else who has come here during a war hasn't ever made it back out with this mythological army.
Mythological army may not exactly be correct. There is plenty of evidence and eyewitness accounts that the army is very real.
Right. So we're attempting to figure out how an entire army has stayed down here so long and why it keeps deterring would-be generals from commanding it.
Correct. Once again, Mr. Bridges, I'm glad to see you actually partake in the wellspring of information I share.
Only a fool would take a job that risks his life and not have his facts straight.
A fool indeed.
Doesn't this layout seem odd to you?
In what way particularly?
It's a mausoleum, right? Why would there be so many twists and turns? At that point, as well, why would it be buried to begin with? It's closer to a crypt more than a mausoleum.
Very astute observation. One I had not bothered to make, as the distinction is of little significance.
It's traits like that which cost people their lives in places like these.
Well, my apologies.
A statue of Jerker. The two adventurers enter a large church-like area with a large statue in the center. A statue of Jergal.
Enlighten me.
The Lord of the End of Everything. Faerun's original god of death. He only cared for one thing, keeping an accurate account of how it all ends, before even he himself ended.
Please elaborate of what you mean when you say it all ends.
The world.
A chilling sentiment, yet I'd like to proceed further still.
I guess there are more than one obsessed with seeing the end, huh? The room they enter is wide and has high ceilings. Along the ceilings are depictions of constellations in an almost hand-like shape. These constellations aren't from Faerun's night sky, are they?
They are not. Perhaps they are what the sky looked like when this place was erected.
Something feels off with that thought. Suddenly, a strong wind blows and cycles into the shape of a man holding a book. Welcome in, visitors. Who are you? I am Mausolus, the curator of the slumbering army, and I must request your name for the visitor's log.
Ah, very well then. I am known only as Goliath, as I was not provided a surname, and have not adopted one yet.
Cliff Bridges. Danke. I pray that you may have better luck than previous visitors and residents. Shush! Mausolus closes the book, and the sound rings hollow as he disappears. Oh, here. Residents. Cliff darts his head upwards to the ceiling. As he does, the constellations come to life as claw-like hands begin to try and crush the adventurers. Goliath, run! Goliath proceeds to run away, and Cliff is then crushed by a hand. The hand begins to rumble, and then Cliff suddenly throws it off of him as he begins to look deranged. Not right now. The other hand swings at him and knocks him away. Cliff begins to lose it. I didn't want this yet. Too late. Cliff goes wild as a werewolf and destroys the one hand. Goliath runs back into view.
Mr. Bridges, you're a tad early, aren't you? Nonetheless, the way forwards is through here.
The two run through a hallway, with the hands making a mess in the room, not giving chase. The two catch their breath, and Cliff reverts.
So, you're attempting to hasten your end of the bargain, are you?
Of course not. But it did what it needed to do.
Very well then. I suppose I can overlook this fluke for the time being.
Skip that. Just read.
What am I doing?
Page 11.
No, we're on page 10.
Just ignore page 10. It's not there.
We found them, an army slumbering within the depths of the world, sealed away until those worthy may command them.
I hate to burst your delusions, but after what just happened in the last room, that doesn't hold water.
Oh? The manifestations of Jurgle is what I presume you're about to bring up?
So you were already aware, you tricky cat.
Not entirely. I admit that I was not familiar with that depiction of Jurgle, however, your description did jog my memory.
Okay then, if you're aware, then don't you think this army is a lot more sinister than you first thought?
Of course it is. Yet, it is not my intent to awaken the army, nor is it to make the knowledge known to anyone else.
So what's that make of me then?
You know exactly what your fate is, as it is in our deal.
So you're going to hold to your word then?
Just as you have to yours.
The two adventurers descend down the side of a cliff face into the massive room housing the army. As they approach, they notice the soldiers are made of terracotta.
Intriguing. So they're called the Slumbering Army in name only. Fascinating discovery, wouldn't you say?
So then, it was Mausolus, then, that was injuring and killing those who came close to this site, and not the army itself.
Do we dare find out?
What? Wait, no! Goliath proceeds to smash one of the terracotta soldiers apart.
Simply marvelous!
Have you lost it, cat?
Quite the opposite, actually. I can now see the truth. So he really did do it.
What are you talking about?
Jurgle, of course. Your knowledge of him is wrong.
Okay, and?
These aren't his men. They're for the lady.
Lady?
The Lady of Loss, Mr. Bridges. The Mistress of the Night, the beautiful woman known realms across as Night Singer. A woman so larger than life and so captivating that not even I myself could resist her compelling melodic desires.
She bewitched you.
She did, yes. I pride myself on being a man of my own talents, and of having no interests in the relationships mortal men form. One such as myself requires not a companion or partner. However, I was allured. We met at a gala held in the far-off, dreary land. I had attended to gather some information for a dear long-departed friend that would be for some use to me later on down the line. The air was cold that night. Many of the patrons were dressed in warmer attire, with many adornments so that they were boasting both style and service to their desires. I was listening to a conversation when the room had dimmed. Needing no stage, she entered the dance floor. Her voice projected out in ways unfathomable to the average man. Her song caressed and embraced every man and woman in the room, gifted with the ability to hear. She had no musical accompaniment. Her voice alone was enough to captivate the audiences, as she stood above the crowd, with her lofty, statuesque figure was what everyone's eyes were fixed to. She came to me, and after she had finished her ballad, and promptly took her place beside me. We exchanged no words that evening, simply reveling in each other's company. I have not seen nor heard her since that night, and I may never again.
Next time I won't ask. Jeez. Either way, that doesn't answer why you think Jurgle would make a bunch of stone men for a woman he never met.
I can only assume he either did meet her at some point, and it was never documented, or his feelings for her were unrequited and never shared with her.
Unrequited? Oh, I get it. He wanted to make the perfect man for her, but he never got past the idea of a soldier.
I concur.
Mission accomplished then, huh? That army isn't going anywhere anytime soon, and we've come up for a solid reason as to why they're here. But how are you sure they're for Night Singer?
She was the one who asked me to come here and figure it out for her.
Works for me. The two ascend back up the cliff face to the hallway where they came from originally, only to see it's been caved in. It's been completely caved in. There's no point trying to get through it. The damage has been done.
Very well then. We'll just have to go out a different way. I doubt the materials used down here were all here when construction took place, meaning there should be some other form of tunnel system that we can use to vacate the premises.
Good idea. Back down we go. The two walk through a horde of terracotta soldiers. Ugh. It's so dusty down here. Gotta be all from all the stone and lack of fresh air.
Yes, it is a bit stale from my acutely trained nose. Stop moving. Something is amiss. Prepare yourself.
What was that?
Unknown assailant. Stay vigilant.
The two adventurers begin to quickly and deftly make their way through the soldiers, as they begin randomly exploding into pieces. I don't get it. What force is making them blow up? There's no fuse or trigger or anything.
Yes, it is quite the puzzle when you weigh in the fact that I destroyed one earlier with no issue. Perhaps there is some form of outside force?
Well, if that's the case, then use your fancy cat eyes to look at it. Goliath looks closely at his surroundings to see the figure of something in the air.
Unknown. No. Unseen. Mr. Bridges, I have a working theory.
Hit me with it.
There's some form of invisible creature that is attempting to dispatch us. The men aren't exploding per se. The force of their missed attacks is causing them to smash apart.
Smash a Cliff is suddenly hit with one of the invisible attacks and is sent flying. In response, Goliath charges the figure and makes an attack.
Take this, you scoundrel! Whoops!
He misses and staggers. Goliath quickly recovers and searches around.
Mr. Bridges! Are you still well?
I don't think well is the right word for it, but I'm alive.
Consider yourself lucky. You weren't made of the stone then, since you're still intact.
Dandy. So we can't hit them, but they can sure hit us, right?
The situation has appeared to have developed that way, yes?
Well, let's try this then. Cliff creates a small fire in his hand and waits momentarily before throwing it towards the invisible enemy. Firebolt! I see it!
Good show! Oh, wait!
The firebolt causes the air to explode forcefully.
Ah! Mercy me, that was unexpected. What could have caused such a forceful explosion?
It was a dust explosion. They're incredibly dangerous. We're lucky the whole place didn't go up in smoke because of that.
Dust explosion, you say? Cliff, do it again, but from a distance. I'll mark your target, just fire on my command.
Are you nuts? Another move like that could knock this whole place down, you lunatic!
I urge you to trust my eyes in this situation. I want nothing more than for both of us to be past this situation.
Fine. We'll do it your way this time. Goliath scans the area while Cliff prepares from afar.
He's almost within range. Are you prepared to fire?
Just say the word, and it's showtime. Goliath waits for a second.
Fire now, Mr. Bridges.
Here goes nothing. Firewalls! Goliath gets clear, and the air where he had gestured explodes with great force.
And again, Mr. Bridges.
Fireballs!
Once more.
Fireballs!
And for the final, fire again.
Ah! Fireballs! Woo!
Eureka! We've got it.
Woo! Goliath is suddenly struck from behind by a completely different assailant and is sent flying.
Oh, mercy!
Two! Cliff is also struck by a different assailant. Whatever these things are, I officially hate them.
I must agree with you, good fellow. However, we now have an idea on how to beat them.
You've got more crazy ideas now, huh?
Not at this moment, however. I know how they work now. It's just as you said. We're causing dust explosions.
That's just 'cause we're underground.
Incorrect. If it were the subterranean air, we'd simply be dead, as you proposed. Like greedy dwarves, however, it's not the air itself. Our opponents are the ones who keep detonating.
What?
They aren't invisible. That's why we can see them. They aren't tangible at the moment. The army is being protected by dust wights.
That would explain their shaky loyalty to the terracotta soldiers. They must be trying to get rid of them while trying to kill us at the same time.
Precisely. They keep turning corporeal for mere moments only to attack, then reverting to dust form.
So what? You want us to time our attacks for the second they turn solid?
Hardly. That'd be far too dangerous and precise for us to calculate in such a dire situation. I have a better idea. Let's group up.
The two huddle for a moment and exchange inaudible ideas, then spring forth into action. Cliff starts grabbing random parts of the smashed terracotta soldiers and using them as shields while placing himself in front of unsmashed terracotta soldiers. Come on, fellas, let's dance. One of the wights swings and smashes the chunk of stone apart. Gotcha now, sucker!
Gias!
The white is then sealed away into the terracotta soldier. Ha 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 ha! That's what you get for being made out of dust. You're part of the army now.
I'm willing to barter that they wouldn't enroll under normal circumstances, so unfortunately, we're acting as conscription officers today.
The two continue to run through the place, sealing whites into whole terracotta soldiers.
Gias! 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 Gias!
That's all of them, yeah.
I believe so. The air feels lighter than it was before due to the lack of living dust hanging about.
So what exactly did you command the dust whites to do with Gias?
I commanded them to fuse themselves with the terracotta soldiers, and to stay put.
Wait, just stay put? You couldn't be a bit more specific?
You can only specify so much with Gias. It has to remain open-ended, yet concise.
Yeah, I know that. That's why stay put as a command sucks. 'Cause it can only refer to the building they're in.
I failed to consider that point of view.
The newly fused dust soldiers begin to stir and slowly lumber towards the two.
Oh, bother. It seems we've made it worse.
Yeah, that's how it looks. We gotta scram, now.
I am in agreement. Let us be off.
The two adventurers begin running through the crowd of both inanimate and animate terracotta soldiers, ducking and dodging swings all throughout.
I suppose you have an inclination of where you're running to, perchance?
The air towards the back wall feels different from this spot. I'm hoping it's the material shipping tunnel you thought of earlier.
Keen observation, good sir. Continue on.
The two make it to the tunnel entrance they guessed at, only for it to be blocked by spare chunks of terracotta.
Well, I'll be. The tunnel does exist, however, it appears we've jumped from the frying pan and into the fire, as we've now become surrounded.
The dust soldiers encroach on their positions and surround them.
It appears the time has come once again for you to assume that role.
Again, huh? Guess I'll point myself in the right direction.
Dandy. Very well then. Moonbeam.
The moonbeam illuminates the room, and Cliff begins to freak out and change forms. God, this always feels miserable. Like something is clawing its way through my throat and drilling through my brain. Accursed lycanthropy!
A stunning spectacle, regardless. Truly magnificent to behold such a transformation. Now then, Cliff, through the debris, if you please.
Cliff begins to tear through the chunks of terracotta blocking their path forwards, and punches through just as the army draws close.
Ah, parting is such a sweet sorrow, but alas, we must greet the dawn.
Sunlight fills the tunnel and instantly reverts Cliff back to a human. At least the return trip is fast. Let's bail.
Gladly.
The two run through the abandoned maintenance tunnel, going further and further until they see daylight in the distance. There it is, the sun. We can get out of this stupid mausoleum.
I must say, I am delighted to be home free as well. Our salvation at last.
They make it to the end of the tunnel and are blasted with freezing cold air.
Ooh! How sultry this cool air is to my fur after such an ordeal.
Quick, we gotta close the tunnel.
Hold a moment, Cliff. We must leave the entrance open.
Are you kidding me, Goliath? The dust soldiers will walk out here and kill whoever's dumb enough to get near.
Actually, they won't. Observe the soldiers.
The dust soldiers are freezing still because of the cold air.
The tunnel was sealed because they can't handle the cool air. They're freezing solid, making it mostly safe for those who want to visit such a location.
Huh. Would you look at that? Well, mission done for real this time then, right?
I'd say so. This time, yes. Any bearing to the closer place where we can unwind?
Check it out down that way. Those are the 10 towns. It spit us out in Icewind Dale.
Oh, how novel! I didn't think we would come out such a far distance from our entry point.
The two are overlooking the 10 towns. There's still one thing I don't quite get yet. Why bother to go through the trouble of making all those figures for a girl you might never see again?
She was just simply captivating, as I said previously.
By design. But no one said she had the same effect on immortals like Jurgo.
Huh. A curious hypothesis to ponder, I agree.
To me, it seems all backwards anyways. He spent so much time trying to make the perfect man for her because he cared about her. Yet, if he cared so much, why not just make yourself into that man? I'm sure with all that power over mortal men, someone cut from the same cloth caring about her would mean realms to her, right?
I believe you're completely right. I didn't think you were capable of such in-depth thought.
Back at it again with that classic feline superiority complex, huh?
Not quite. I just find it amusing to squabble like cats and dogs.
The end for this episode. You've been listening to Dungeon Anthology on Riot Radio. Have a great evening, and we'll see you in the next episode.